The way you feel, stable, content, or unstable, depressed, or anxious, is closely linked to your thoughts. If you learn to unblend, unstick, detach, defuse from unhelpful thoughts, thoughts that perpetuate anxiety and depression, you will experience those states less and less. This video will teach you how to do that. Hey everyone, welcome here. This is Becoming an Expert at Self-Leadership. I'm Maika, I'm a psychologist, and this is part 10 of the Cognitive Defusion course, which teaches you the art of unhooking from unhelpful thoughts. Not all thoughts are helpful or important or deserving of our valuable time and energy. Yet, if we don't let them go, they'll keep hanging around and draining our energy. So here's what to do instead. Step 1, notice. Before we can relax our hold on a thought, we have to notice it's there. And the default with which we usually walk through life is that we're so melted together with our thoughts that we don't notice them as thoughts. That makes it easy for a thought to get away with consuming your attention and dominating your actions. This is where practicing to notice your thoughts comes in as a really helpful habit. That means checking in with the part of you that thinks and seeing what's going on there. Which thoughts are you having? Which beliefs and judgments are crossing your mind? And if you're interested in learning more about the different types of helpful and unhelpful thoughts, check out my Mental Habits course. Label. Next, label the thought that you've noticed. This means taking the thought that you're having and placing an "I'm having the thought that" before it. For example, I'm having the thought this will go terribly wrong. I'm having the thought that I haven't achieved enough. I'm having the thought that I won't be able to find a solution to this problem. I'm having the thought that I shouldn't say no to this request. And if you recognize a thought as a recurring thought, you can also trace it back to the story or narrative it came from. I know this story. This is the disaster is about to strike story. Here goes again the I'm not enough story. This is a familiar story. It's the I'm unlovable story. Here it goes again, the I'm stressed and under pressure story. Another familiar story, it's the what if something's morally wrong with me story. Number 3, check for helpfulness. Next, see if and how helpful this thought is to you. What are the consequences of believing this thought or letting this thought stand as something that you subscribe to, an assumption that you feel is a correct estimation of the situation? What are the consequences of this thought? How will this thought affect your emotional and mental state? Ask yourself, what will this thought make me want to do, and is this thought in line with my goals and values? If I let this thought guide me, will it take me to where I want to go? Will it help me build the life that I want? Where is this thought coming from? Is it coming from unhelpful patterns and core beliefs that formed in my past that I want to let go of? If the answer to this question, is this thought helpful, is yes, then you can just stay with it. It's helpful. It's benefiting you. If the answer is no, proceed to the next step. Number 4, create distance. Now that you've become aware of your unhelpful thought, you can let it drift, float, move past you, out of sight. In this last step of cognitive defusion, you will call to mind and visualize things, objects, people, animals that move, float, drift, or fly past you, and you'll visualize your thought joining them in their movement. the options you have for this imagery are endless. It needs to have two elements, something that stays and something that moves. The thing that stays represents you as the observer of thought, and the thing that moves represents your thought moving into the distance. Here are some examples of this type of imagery that includes something that stays put, which represents the observer, and something that moves, which represents the flow of our thoughts. A sidewalk with pedestrians walking by, a street with moving cars, a river with boats, waves, or leaves on it, a sky with clouds, balloons, or birds flying through, a meadow with running animals, a windshield that has specks of dirt flying at it and the windshield wipers remove them, a train station with trains coming through, a billboard with ads that keep changing, a room with an insect that flies out of the window, just like your unhelpful thought flies out of your awareness, a conveyor belt with suitcases on it, a TV screen with movie credits moving along the screen, or your YouTube feed with videos, suggestions coming through. I suggest you try this out right now. Notice an unhelpful thought, label it, make sure it's really unhelpful, and then create distance. Before you start, pick one of the imageries that I just mentioned, and then stay with that imagery for a while. You can close your eyes if it helps you to focus, and then envision yourself watching pedestrians walking along a busy street, boats drifting down a river, clouds floating along in the sky. Connect your unhelpful thought with the pedestrians, boats, or clouds, and feel it moving away. Feel it joining the pedestrians walking by and clouds floating along. What's important here is that you're taking a step back out of the logic of this thought, out of its claim of being real, and letting it drift by. You're not trying to force it out. You're not trying to increase the speed of the pedestrians, boats, leaves, or clouds. You're letting the thought drift away in its own speed, in its own good time. You're not pushing, you're not shoving, you're not arguing, you're not forcing, you're not fighting. Sometimes a thought doesn't move away as quickly as other thoughts. That's okay too. You were still successful in unhooking from it because it's not dominating you anymore. There's some space between you and the thought, even if it's still there. The main thing you're doing is watching, observing, noticing your thoughts. And mostly thoughts are in motion and they will move, but if they don't, that's fine too. As long as you don't respond to that with, why is this thought not moving? This thought should be going away. Why is this thought still here? I shouldn't be having this thought. Observe, watch, notice. Don't judge, struggle, or fight against it. This is a really powerful self-leadership strategy. Its main aim is to stop being dominated by unhelpful thoughts or to waste your time and energy trying to disprove them. That way you can reclaim your time, energy, and sense of what's real. And over time, as you practice this, you'll notice how your life improves, how it helps you to feel better and do what you want to be doing. That doesn't mean this will happen every single time you practice this. Sometimes you won't feel better immediately. Sometimes the thought won't go away immediately. That's fine. Keep practicing and notice how with time, on average, your emotional and mental state will improve. Next week, I'll upload the last video in this cognitive defusion series, and I'll be sharing more cognitive diffusion techniques so you can try out different ones and see which ones work best for you. I talk about more topics connected to cognitive diffusion over on my e-learning platform, which you can find at the first link in the description box. In the course that I upload there, I also talk about how emotional diffusion works and how to overcome reluctance to letting go of thoughts. Till next time, take care. And remember, notice, label, check for helpfulness, and create distance from upsetting thoughts through visual imagery.